All right. Hi, everyone. You're joining Dominique Caraya and our guest, Lily Wildfire, tonight. We're going to be speaking on Ayiti, spirituality, and the connection that Ayiti has with Indigenous people throughout the Americas. We really want to focus on it because there's just so much going on right now. There's so much that the news isn't covering. Um, and it's just a lot that's been taking place. And is there anything you want to share before we kind of dive in, Lily?
Hi everyone, I'm Lily Wildfire and Dominique. It is Ayiti, but just in case for the people who don't know what Ayiti is, it's the English version is Haiti. So when she speaks about Ayiti, we're talking about what everyone else know in the English language as the island of Hispaniola in the country of Haiti. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really excited to be here, and I know this is a huge connection. Haiti's connected to the North America and everything that has been, kept away, swept under the rug. I'm excited to take part in revealing those information and just helping everybody see what's going on and how we are connected and how we can all come together, especially the females, indigenous females.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, that's what we're going to open this talk up with. We're going to be speaking on what's happening with the planet right now. There's obviously a lot going on as far as just natural disasters, as far as women awakening, as far as indigenous people awakening. And so I really want to stress that it's all connected. Um, it's not like exclusive. And it's no coincidence that all of this is happening at the same time. As Indigenous people, we're connected to the planet. We come from the planet. As women, we're even more connected. You know, the planet is feminine. Feminine energy is that darkness that's bringing everything that was in the darkness into the light right now. So we're seeing a lot unfold. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's getting worse, rather, it's just being uncovered.
Yeah, it's being revealed. I believe we're getting to the point where now it's being revealed. We have to accept it and come up with solutions. Where before, I feel like everybody's eyes was covered due to religion and different types of programming. Now everything is coming to the surface. You either gonna do something about it or you're gonna stay in denial and just perish, with the rest of the bullshit, basically.
Absolutely. And so, as this planet heats up, as just these natural disasters increase, it's no coincidence that at the same time we have indigenous people that are waking up, that are starting to speak out more, that are saying, especially when it comes to the Americas, where they're teaching in these colonial schools that we're all dead. We're saying, no, we're not dead. We're still here. We still exist from North America all the way to the tip of South America. Like, we are still here. Um, and so, also with women, there's women now who are waking up. And we see this with some of the modern artists today, too, that are speaking out against just all of this like patriarchal banter and just belief systems that we've been like forced to believe, that's been forced on us for the past how many thousands of years, maybe. Um, and so it's now women that are turning away from that and that are saying no, so it's just like it is all connected and all rooted in the earth, that energy. It's all part of this one great thing that's going on. So it may look really bad, but there's definitely some positives to what's going on at the moment. Do you
And
have
I
anything else?
think, I think, Dominic, I think it's really good. I know some people see it as bad, but it's really good. It's like having, being sick for so long, and then, you have to vomit. It's like, I think that's what's going on with the earth. It's been sick for so long from all the evil and all the imbalance. So now she's relieving herself. So some people might see what's going on as bad, but it's actually, when you're tuned in, it's really good what's going on. And I'm happy to be here to witness it. And I'm happy to be part of the solution.
Absolutely, I totally agree. So a little bit about the island before Columbus arrived. I also wanted to stress the fact that just as we travel today, um, throughout the Americas, right? You may vacation on, to Central America or wherever you go. Just as we travel today, we did that before European colonists arrived. So you may have family that was on an island and you were on a different island, or you may have had family that was like in the southeast and on an island. So it's the same type of thing, but with this colonialism, with these European colonists arriving, what they did was, people always talk about the transatlantic slave trade, but there was a triangular trade that happened throughout the Americas between North, Central, and South America, to where they were enslaving tribes in North America as far north as Canada and taking them to the Caribbean. And that's
That's true. That's true. And I think the way they masked that in history, they told us that Haiti had a lot of slaves from Africa. So they made us believe everyone that was on the island, everybody was from Africa, and they were brought to Haiti, and not what you just mentioned. So there's a lot of trickery that took place too, because for the longest time, they just had us believe everyone on that island was slaves that were taken from Africa to Hispaniola. So this it's interesting that you brought that up. That's important.
Yeah, and just also too the way that they changed the names of places. So like there was obviously an indigenous name before that. We hear Ayiti, we hear Kiskea. The tribes, other tribes probably had different names before that. Before it started to be called Haiti, right? Then the colonists called it Saint Domingue. Then they called it Hispaniola. Now it's Haiti. So this is another trickery that they play to where it gets people confused, because it's like if you're looking back on history, you're like, okay, where's this now? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So it's just like these colonizer games that they play with everything, to where they're putting their own names, just as they do today. They come up with a town, they put all these things in this town and they put their name on it, or whatever name they want to be on it. Someone said most of the information we've been told about slavery was a lie to keep us stagnant in the pure darkness. Yeah, a lot of it definitely was a lie. And
Yeah.
I would also say, greetings, Hata Nashoba, greetings. I will also say too that those lies are used to keep us down as indigenous people. If they're teaching, like you said, Lily, if they're teaching, oh, everybody comes from Africa, what are you going to think? You're going to think, well, I'm not home. You're not going to think, oh, well, let me fight for this. But even in that, what I see too is that those of us who are indigenous, we have fight in us. You know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah.
not just gonna so easily take what others are saying or trying to put on us. Even
Yeah.
fucking colonizers, we're not gonna so easily just accept it and go along with it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think a perfect example of that is what's going on and what's been going on in Haiti.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like people who are attached to that land, they're gonna continue fighting. They're not just gonna be like, oh, okay, all right, we'll move. Oh, okay, we're gonna just go away. No, it's our land. So why do we have to move? Like we have connection to it. Like that's our birth home, you know. So we're not going anywhere. And they've done so much, and I feel good. I am Haitian. I'm proud to be Haitian, and I know for sure Haiti's gonna be okay. People called me after the last earthquake, and you know they would ask me, do you have any family there? And I wasn't stressed at all, because I feel like, yeah, well, the earthquake, there's a cleansing going on. Haiti's going to be fine. I'm very confident in saying Haiti's going to be fine.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get into um, what happened as far as the revolution, I also wanted to share some information regarding some of the indigenous peoples that were enslaved and sent to um, Haiti. So we have the Pawnee that were enslaved, and I found out about that a few years ago from a genealogist. So some of the Pawnee Indians were enslaved and sent to Haiti. Then we also have Natchez. And so the Natchez were in North America. I don't know if you all have heard of Natchez Trace. There's Natchez Trace runs through um, Tennessee. Also, there's people in Mississippi. Oh yeah, Natchez, Natchez, and so that whole group of people also had, just this conflict with the French. A number of them were enslaved, and I'm gonna read a little bit about that just so y'all can know what I'm talking about. It says, here, the French ability to enslave indigenous people in colonial Louisiana was limited because most French did not want Native American slaves on their plantation. The reason why they didn't want this is because a lot of Native American slaves would run away. So it goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago about how when you're connected to this land, you have a fight in you. You're not just gonna like so easily kowtow to these people.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be just like, oh yeah, I'll do whatever you say. Like, no, it's going to take a lot for them to break your spirit. Basically,
Yeah.
it's not going to be so easy to do. And so in that region, they were enslaving the Natchez from uh, up here. It also said, let me see here, trying to go to the one portion where it really really speaks on it. When the French enslaved over 300 Natchez in 1731, the Natchez became the largest group of indigenous peoples enslaved by the French from North America and sold to the Caribbean, but they were not the last. It says after 1731, colonial administrators from other French colonies sought to use this same strategy of enslavement and displacement against their native enemies. So this was something that was just practiced throughout. Um, Recently I found out that there were Kusabo natives, that's my maternal side. There were Kusabo that were also enslaved and sent to Haiti as well. Before that, there were Mayans that were already on the island. So, and then again, with the so-called Taino, which that wasn't their actual name anyway, but it was different so-called Taino tribes that was already there. So when people just focus on, oh, Africa, 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 it's omitting such a huge part of indigenous history of these people that were, and their blood still is in among the people on the island.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just something that I'm very passionate about because I'm like, this is a huge part that is not being told. And I think I mean, obviously it's strategically like left out. But
Yeah.
is there anything you have to or want to add to that?
I also remember years ago reading about the Haitian Revolution and the history of Haiti, and one of the things they mentioned was, oh, the African that came to the island, they were able to fight because they were all under the same spiritual system. And I'm like, no, I believe the reason why they had similar spiritual system because they're just taking people from North America, the US, and bringing them to the Caribbean. And at one time, that land was one. So they interacted and they knew enough about each other's beliefs where they were able to work together. It wasn't necessarily people all the way from Africa that was there fighting and they had so much in common spiritually. So I believe that was a lie too.
Right. And Ken Mechanic Fury Taino says Guata, Guanini, Lucayan, and California, amongst many names. So these were some of the names of the tribes of people that were on the island as well. Um, let's see here. So, in regards to that, as far as what you said about the one spiritual system, how would they say that just because these people are African, that they were of one spiritual system when there's different, to this day, there's different spiritual systems among people in Africa. So that doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It
It's
doesn't.
it's this whole pan Africanizing type of rhetoric, that comes from white people that they're trying to say, and put together and say it's all one. I wanted to point this out. Now this happened up here in North America, but this is the reason why when people think of slavery and hear that word slave, they automatically think of Africa. This is one huge reason why. This is in the Oklahoma Supreme Court case. Miller versus Allen in 1924, they stated that one drop of slave blood taints the stream and makes it African in descent. So it has nothing to do with bloodline. It's just if you're a slave, they're just gonna start calling you African, and they put this in their laws. So this is why they teach that in the schools. They don't teach about indigenous slavery that happened first.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care to teach about that. You know what I'm saying?
So,
So if this
yeah,
is written in their laws, huh?
and it's so interesting because you meet African people and they don't have any history of their people being taken over here, you know? But then somehow there's, millions of Africans that was taken from Africa. It's just crazy. So I'm just happy everything's coming to the surface. It's lie, 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 lie. It's just a whole bunch of lies.
Right. Absolutely. So, Lily, if you want to just go into the revolution aspect of it, I'll let you take over from here.
Okay, so there's what's been told in history, and then there's theories, and then there's just new discoveries. So what's been told in history was the slaves were they were fighting, and then they got their freedom because they went in the wood Wakaima and they did some type of voodoo ceremony. But what I know and what I believe and what I know to be true was it wasn't actually slave. I believe these people were actually fighting for their land. Like, you came to my house, you're trying to steal my shit, you put up your tents, and I'm fighting for my land. I don't believe these people were slaves that didn't have food, that didn't know how to fight. I believe they were invaded, just like somebody come to your home, they try to steal your stuff, so you're going to fight back. I really don't believe all these people were slaves like they say. I just don't believe that because they fought for their land. They were fighting for themselves and for their children. And so they told us they were slaves, but I don't believe they were slaves. And another thing was, of course, they claim what we did, what my foremothers did, my forefathers did, was wicked, it was evil. In actuality, all they did was call on the spirit of the mother. They call on the land, they call on the ancestors, they basically call on their own powers, and they defended themselves. So they demonize the spiritual system now. So to the point now you have Haitians who are Christians, who are big Jesus believers. When I say Jesus believers, I mean like blonde hair, blue eye Jesus believers, where they feel like voodoo and anything that has to do with that is wicked and evil. Like, you're not gonna meet a lot of Haitian people who's gonna tell you they practice, because they frown on it, and people call you all types of degrading, names if they know you practice voodoo, because they demonized it so much. And when in actuality, that's what their ancestors used to free themselves. But in history and Christian churches, they told us that they practice voodoo, they call on the devil, some shit like that. They said, oh, the Haitians made a pact with the devil. That's what the church I went to, and I went to a predominantly Caucasian church as I grew up. They said, we practice that we made a pact with the devil, and that's how we won. So what they did, they demonized the spiritual system, and they demonize the exact power and knowledge that freed the people. So in actuality, they wanted us to remain so-called slaves, let them take over and beat us and kill us and rape us, all in the name of being righteous and worshiping their God. So um, it takes a lot as a Haitian person to get out of that mindset, especially that I did grow up in the church. My history go back to voodoo, but I did grow up in the church because my parents went to church. It takes a lot. If you find a Haitian person who grew up in the church and like they're practicing, it takes a lot, because we are ashamed in our own communities if they even know that we practice. So I find, back to what you're mentioning, a lot of programming and just brainwashing of indigenous people.
And we also have to remember too all of the abusive things that they did to indigenous people who did want to and did try to stay, close to their heritage and practice their culture. Just different types of abuse tactics. Like I know up here, they were taking children, putting them in these, Christian type of schools and Catholic schools and things of that nature, abusing them in the schools. But also, they were taking indigenous people, putting them in mental asylums if they refused to assimilate into the, Eurocentric colonial society. Hata Neshoba says, facts. It was an indigenous revolution utilizing all elements in order to defend the land. I totally, totally agree with that. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
But I feel like over time, the people have been so programmed, just like the indigenous people here, where, everybody go to church, everybody's worshiping this sky daddy, and they've neglected and turned their backs on what saved them. For example, the Haitian flag. The Haitian flag. I went to look at the lyrics. It's talking about defending the father, defending your ancestors, defending your father, defending your brother. There's no mention of defending the mother, no
Mm,
mention of defending the daughter, no mention of defending your sister. The whole entire flag is patriarchal. It's all about men saying they're going to defend men, not the mother, not the daughter, not the sister. And I know some people might say, well, that's because it was just men fighting. No, there were women fighting. I believe because everything has been rewritten by patriarchs, I believe it was predominantly women that won and fought. It was priestesses that led that revolution.
absolutely.
So why in the flag song?
This is the modern Haitian flag song.
Yes, modern Haitian flag song.
Okay.
It says, pour le pays, for the country, for the ancestors, for my father, for my brother, for my son, I will fight. And it goes on and on and on. This is not this it's like 5 paragraphs, and there's nothing mentioned about the mother. There's nothing mentioned about anything feminine.
Mm,
So when I see, there's several things that happen over time. It wasn't just colonialism that
right.
happened to people. It was also patriarchy. And I believe the men, I don't know what happened to them, but the men, I believe they went against nature, went against their own mother, they went against the feminine in that land. That's why they were able to be, taken over. And at the end, it was priestesses that led that. It was women that was fighting. So why there's no females? Why you're not fighting for the mother? Why this is all about men? So when I see that, I was like, okay, there's a connection. And it's still to this day, it's still patriarchal over there. It's just like over
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, a lot of people, when they talk about indigenous culture, they just mention colonialism, but patriarchy played a huge part. Even I believe patriarchy played a bigger part in the destruction of our culture and our people. Because how do you go against your own mother and expect to be okay?
Yeah, and
Everything
generally
was.
speaking,
Mhm.
in indigenous cultures, there was more respect for women. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
but something somewhere happened to where
Yeah.
this even got to this point to where they could do this. So, Indigenous Oregon Primordial One said we were never overthrown. They got help from insiders, and we do see that when we study history throughout the Americas, that there are tribes that did ally with European colonists because hey, you're probably warring with this tribe and you don't like them. So you see some people who come along and also don't like them, and you're like, hey, well maybe we can get them back by siding with those people. And now look at the collective of us in general. You know what I mean? So that didn't really work too well.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
mechanic said betrayal of your own people for the invaders. Yeah, and people too thought that they could just get their own, oh, we can just get our way or have our own outcome by aligning ourselves with European colonists. And it's just like, no, they fucked everybody over because they're playing you against these people to get what they want, and now look what has happened because of that, you know.
Yeah, I feel like for that whole situation, something had to happen to the mothers. Something had to happen to the female elders. Like, especially looking at Haiti, what happened in Haiti, and then their flag song. The flag song was written after the revolution.
Mm,
So what happened where you guys are talking about protecting men and your fathers and your sons and not your mothers, not your daughters, when women fought too, when it was priestesses that led? So I blame most of this on patriarchy more than I blame colonialism.
right.
That's just,
Well, let's
that's
go into that. Let's go into that. So there's this amazing book. I don't know if y'all can see it. She Rose of the Haitian Revolution, written by Professor Baina Bello, where she goes into the role that women in Haiti played in the Haitian Revolution. So, do you want to elaborate more on that, Lily?
Yeah, it's called Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution. Baina Bello, she's wonderful. I've met her in person. She has a foundation. She's one of the elders that's doing a lot of work. If you guys can support her YouTube page. The book, it's 10 women, and I know there was more than 10 women, but she selected 10 women who played a major role. And the crazy thing is when they tell us stories about the Haitian Revolution through a patriarchal mindset. They never mention women. They told us stuff like the women were cooks. Like cooking what? I mean, they're at war. Nobody's sitting there making gourmet meals, you know? And then there was another article that said like the women were like sex workers. They're
Mm,
try to have sex with the other men to trick them. It's like that's not true. No, though they were warriors. They were fighters. They were magicians. They were mothers. And so even telling the story of victory of a whole country, they still leave out the females.
mm,
They leave out the females. So when I see they struggle and our people are going through a lot. And when people try to, point fingers and just colonialism, I'm like, no, because there's so much proof that the female was attacked first. There's proof that something happened where the woman was degraded. So of course there's room left open for things to happen. Like if a mother, if a woman, a powerful woman is not at peace and she can't go and do her spiritual work, she can't go
mm-hmm,
and take care of things, then who's protecting the spiritual realm?
mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that isn't talked about. And
Right.
people love to talk about just the Caucasian men, but it's like, no, something deeper, something bigger than the Caucasian men happened.
So,
And you see that in history. But I know we probably won't get to that in this call, but I would like us to do another call where we can talk about that part.
talk about what in particular?
Just the spiritual attack on the female that
Okay.
happened in these different
Right.
systems
So
that led
let's
us.
go into a little bit of the names of the women. So let's start with Anacona, um, and her, and just like kind of what she did and just her importance in the history of the island.
I don't have the book, but I know you have it. But
You
I'm
want me
not.
to say?
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
I have it,
Okay.
but I don't have it with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna just read a little bit from here. It says. In the year 1492, Euro Christians savagely invaded Ayiti. Anna was the only living member of the crown, and through her extraordinary talents and stateswomanship, she was not only able to survive but to lead the fight against the vicious invaders. Sorry, but they were haters too.
Yeah, exactly. Big time haters.
She mounted armies of thousands armed with bows and arrows to confront the heavily armed enemy, and under her leadership, they won many battles. Due to the success of the cacique's resistance, the Spanish crown sent in a new governor to attempt to crush her defense. So they said she was tried, found guilty of treason against Spain, and sentenced to death. And so that's one person. They also have, as you said, the spiritual, the women who were involved in the spiritual. It says Cecile Fatima, she sought after, was a sought after Mambo in the French slave colony of Saint Domingue. She was born in France to a Senegalese mother and a white French father. Um, it says she made a name for herself with her beauty on the island. But she was confined to a house slave status, but she was not submissive. And so, because she wasn't submissive to her master, she was relegated to field work. And but she grew into a master of communication and formed codified networks all over the island, which led to led to the revolution. Because from what I've researched, there was years of organizing. It just didn't happen overnight. There was
Yeah,
years of having to communicate with how we're going to go about it. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, we just woke up all one day and we're like, oh, let's go to war.
exactly.
And
The
so
people,
she,
they had to come together. And
right.
I know that's what we're going to have to do in this era. People are
Hmm.
going to have to actually come together.
Hmm. And so that was a little bit about her. And then there was Marie Jean, said she was a maroon and extraordinary spy from Port Republican, now known as Port-au-Prince. She refused to be called mulatto, preferring the term mixed blood. That acknowledged her dominant inheritance of African and Arawak blood. So that's another thing about the term mulatto too. It wasn't always meaning somebody who was so-called black and white. That term was also used for people who are American Indian and African admixture. So I do want to point that out. But it says during the War of Independence, the most common warrior bands were made up of men, women, and children. The rarest were constituted exclusively of women. So here we go with what you said. It was not just men that were fighting; it was women and children too.
There was a
It was
lot
everybody. It was a
of
lot of different types of people, and different ages. It's that the rarest were constituted exclusively of women, such as the one directed by Marie Jean. I love the artwork. I love the artwork in this book. So, um, and it says she always took her responsibilities seriously. Um, no one can mention the Battle of Crete. I don't know how to say this. Do you know how to say this word?
I can't see it. I don't think it's.
Crete a Piera. I don't know how to say it, girl. I can't speak the
I
language.
can't even see it. It's
But it
bring
says
it
it's a
closer.
turning point. Huh?
I was gonna say bring it closer, but it's.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
yeah. It says it was a turning point in Haiti's war for independence without referring to the extraordinary accomplishments of Marie Jeanne. So it's like she was a central part in she played a central part in fighting this war. So it was just a lot of women, a woman who sewed the flag. It was a lot of things that women did that you really don't hear about. All you hear about is what Toussaint and Dessalines.
Yeah, yeah,
That's literally all you hear about. So check out that book. Definitely get that book, Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution by Nabello, especially for the ladies, like women. We don't really hear too much in general about indigenous women who were warriors or who were fighting in the history of the Americas, but it was a lot of that going on, especially in the Caribbean.
yeah. And also, they don't mention like Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Toussaint. They were trained by women, you know. So I know for a fact they removed the women, which tells me it was a lot more women than they have in writing. And then we go back to the flag, what's going on right now, and the stuff, the state of womanhood, even in Haiti, the patriarchal mindset, this submissive thing they want the women to be, is just a lot. And I think until all of us are ready to go in deeper to what happened, we won't be able to get the solution. We got to
Hmm.
go in deeper to what happened. There's no reason why these women were removed and women are being seen as we're just there to cook, like we're at war. Nobody's cooking like that, you know. Somebody's just throwing some potatoes over the fire. They acted like the women were there as chefs,
Yeah.
and it's like why?
The name of the woman who taught Dessalines was Toya.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to put that out there. I think it says Agbaraya. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but Agbaraya Toya was her name, and she taught him how to fight. So she taught him how to fight, but we're not going to mention her.
Yeah, that's crazy. She raised him and taught him how to fight,
He wouldn't
but
have known how to do that, like, if it wasn't for her teaching him.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was a great trespass against the female, indigenous females. And some people said, well, it wasn't our sons, it wasn't the sons, it was an outsiders. But I don't know. It's like it had to happen from the inside. It's somebody from the inside. So there's just a lot of work, a lot of healing, a lot of truth that people need to just face. We can't just be in denial anymore.
Absolutely. Um, Hatan Ashoba said colonialism always introduces a patriarchal religion. Women were the ones who resisted until they saw their men weakened by drugs and drink that the colonizers brought with them. So that's a good point. Women, I think it's like I said, I think it's just stronger in us, that urge, that desire, that need to resist, because it's like we're raising children in this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
like, it's like,
We're the first protectors. We're the first protectors. So we don't want, like, we're breastfeeding. We're not gonna be drinking that stuff, you know. We don't want danger around our babies because we want
right.
them to be safe. So we're gonna, resist more. So, but yeah, we're gonna. I want us to go to do something else later.
Yeah, we're gonna have to definitely go into that in another video.
Yeah.
But so can you go into a little bit of just what's happened after the revolution? What's been going on in Haiti after the revolution has happened?
Okay. So after the revolution, um, Haiti owed a whole bunch of money. Like, people, they will tell you Haiti's the poorest country, Haiti's the poorest country, and people think Haitian people are just sitting there waiting for government checks. There's no government checks. There's no food stamps. People are very motivated. People work. Nobody's lazy, because if you don't get up and make something happen, you're not gonna eat. So, but they've taken so much. Like, I went to Haiti, like the mountains, all the trees are gone,
Mm.
and, they're taking the natural resources, because we Haiti owed, France so much money. It was like,
So they owed them money because they fought back, and so it's like because they see them as property, they're like, well, you got to pay us back from the law for the
mhm.
lost property.
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
talking from just experience. I remember, I came here as a young girl, but I can't remember how old my daughters were. Sorry. So I'm trying to think when. So I was talking to my nephew, and it was a big deal. It was maybe 10 years ago. I don't remember the exact date. And everybody was like celebrating, everybody was happy. And I asked my nephew, what's going on? And he said, Haiti doesn't owe, we're free. We don't owe France money anymore. And I was like, money for what? So, and he was like, yeah, we were paying money. We don't owe money anymore. And this was like, I think in the early 2000s. And I'm thinking, wait, so I didn't know that at the time, because, I'm just living my life. I didn't really know the history like that. And I said, so wait, so we've owed and been paying these people since what, 200 years ago? And he said, yeah. So it was a big thing when supposedly they didn't owe anymore. But what's happening is, there's always a different type of attack. There's the natural resources, and there's a whole bunch of embargo they do, where they won't allow Haiti to export, and, with other and trade with other countries. It's been a constant
Mm.
attack. It's like, people say, well, if Haiti won, why we're still poor? Well, we're still poor because we had to pay all this money. We're still poor because we can't trade, we can't import and export. There's always issues with immigration. There's like natural resources are being taken, and then, not to mention, you have all these people that are running the country. They're not even native. They don't have parents. They don't have grandparents. It's people from other countries,
Mm-hmm.
like people from Iraq, Jewish people. They would come to Haiti, give birth, have children there. Naturally, if you're born in that country, you're a citizen.
Right.
And then their children are taking over. Like the government is not even being run by Haitian people. The top people, they're not Haitian people for the most part. So
Mm.
it's just like so much the food and the constant political attacks. And then when you have people who are not, who's not, I guess, rooted to that land, they don't care. They're coming to take what they want and they're going back home.
Right. So
So there's, Mhm.
can we rewind a little bit? Someone said, "What Haitian leader agreed to pay the French?" Do you know who it was that agreed to pay the French and why?
I've read it before, but this is such a big topic. But I don't remember who it was. But it was early on. This is not something that happened just 50 years ago. It was like really, really on. Because what happened was after we won the revolution, they sent the some of the people back to France. So
Some of the
France,
colonizers. Is that what you're
the
saying?
colonizers back.
Okay.
So there was threats made telling the people who were ruling Haiti back. This was years ago, that Haiti didn't pay, if Haiti didn't pay, all the European countries, it wasn't just going to be France, the Great Britain, the U.S., all the European countries were going to come together as one and come back on that island.
Mm.
They didn't just give money just because they wanted to.
Right.
The people
Okay.
we were so tired of fighting. Like
Mhm.
they did what they thought was safe, what they thought was best, because after winning and there was so much happened, people were just tired, especially after the leaders died, a lot of the women died, a lot of people lost their lives.
Mhm.
So when the threats were made, when France said they were coming back with, um, they're all the same to me. The American, all of them, all the colonizers are one. That's what people don't understand. I don't separate
Mhm.
the trends,
Yeah, they
and
work as one too.
they're one. So they threatened to come back to Haiti, all of them joining forces, come back and take over the land. And then the leaders at the time decided, yeah, we're just gonna have to pay, because they didn't want to come back, because they knew they didn't have the manpower. Everybody was tired. They knew they weren't going to be able to fight, so they agreed to just pay the money.
Okay. Okay.
It was sacrifice.
Right. Right. And I'm glad that you clarified that, because that is something that I've wondered too. Like, okay, why would they? Because I also read, now I don't know if this is true. This is in a book called, I think it's called The Faces of the Gods, and it talks about um, just what's been going on in Haiti just over the years and things like that. And it said that there was, it was like they fought, rebelled, and then one of the leaders had asked the French to come back. I don't know how true that was though, but
Um, I don't remember reading about that. I think what happened. I did hear something like that, but I think what happened was after Jean-Jacques Dessalines, after all the people, after they died and different things happened, and it's like you have to start over. It might have been a mulatto. I just can't see an indigenous person asking the French to come back. It might have been their children they left behind.
so
I'm
like
not.
the European and black
Yeah,
mulatto. Okay.
yeah. It had to be one of their people. Like your daddy left. So now,
Mhm.
yeah, it had to be one of them. They can't be indigenous people that
Are
asked.
those the ones that are running the country now?
I
The
don't know, but they're
Okay.
put on a pedestal, though.
Okay.
Yeah, they're put on a pedestal over
Because
there.
the question that a lot of us have too, and that I've seen a lot of people saying, is that, well, damn, they just won't give Haiti a break. So that's something that I see a lot of people saying, like, they just keep messing with Haiti. They won't leave Haiti alone, the colonizers.
Yeah.
So,
and
um,
people think I think I'm happy all this is coming to the surface. We're like 2021, we're just in the right era right now, because I know the more people ask questions, the
mhm.
more the truth is gonna come to the surface. That's what
Right.
questions do. Questions bring the truth to the surface. And
Right.
the truth is, um, I know for sure there's power, because I
Mhm.
feel like, in as far as North America, Haiti is one of the places where all of us are there. We all have blood in Haiti.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
we all have blood.
The founder of
Everybody,
Chicago, he was Haitian.
yeah, we all
And,
have
and
blood
that's
in
an
Haiti.
indigenous word too. So if he was African, why would he choose an indigenous word to be the name of that area? That's another thing.
Yeah, I believe
So
a lot happened in Haiti, and that was a place where all indigenous people of North America went to do business, have temples. Haiti's very, very special. I know they're telling people Haiti's poor, the people are eating mud pies. And I'm just like, I don't know anybody who ate mud pies or
can
mud
I say
cookies.
something about the mud pies too?
Huh?
Because as indigenous people, again, this is where we go back to demonizing indigenous cultures. We understood, and we still do this today, that there's benefits in our natural clay.
It's clay, but they're saying that it's mud. They made it seem like it's something people step on, dogs poop on it, and people are making it and eating it.
Right. So
But
we
it's
understand.
clay.
Right. We understand that there's benefits in the clay to where, people will drink clay
Yeah.
to alkalize, balance their body out. People
Mhm.
will use clay masks on their face to pull out the impurities in their skin. So I just had to point that out to where here we go again, where indigenous culture is being demonized and being likened to poverty when that's not necessarily the case. But
Yeah.
it's like if you don't know that, then you'll go along with they don't they're eating mud cookies or this or that or just a whole lot of stuff that's just like we're just like okay, you know
And the crazy thing is, the clay has a lot of nutrients and things that we need. A lot of people here are missing that. So, but again, they demonize it. So people think these people are just eating mud pies, or mud
right,
cookies, whatever they call it.
exactly. So let's go into some of the leadership in more modern times of Jennifer says this lady told me an elder she knew was never, I guess she meant to say never sick because she ate clay. So yeah, that goes back into the benefits and like you were saying, the nutrients that clay has for the body. So when
Hmm.
they're talking about mud cookies and blah blah blah, well let's compare the skin of people in Haiti to the skin of people in North America and let's see who has the better skin.
Hmm.
What type of diet are we eating up here that's praised where most of the stuff isn't natural, but y'all talking about them eating mud cookies and stuff.
Hmm.
So again, it's just ignorance, and they do that on purpose. They do it on purpose.
Yeah. And
Um,
then they'll go to Haiti and try to get the ingredients and bring it here and sell it at Whole Foods.
right, for like $50 for 1 ounce of whatever, right? That's the
Yeah.
type of stuff they do. Um, So Jennifer said vaccines are praised, and you see how well that works. Speaking of that, I don't want to go deep into that, but one thing that I did read with this whole COVID thing, they said Haiti has the least number of cases. Haiti is basically COVID free, is what they were saying. Then not too terribly long ago. Now this was before the recent earthquake. This was even before the assassination of the president, which I kind of want to get into that a little bit. They were saying that now they're trying to go and vaccinate people on the island. So now we know what that is. If they're saying first that these people, there's not really any cases of COVID, and now you're trying to vaccinate people,
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah.
just like after that big earthquake happened years ago, and there was people on the island that said that there was bodies where the organs was missing. So we know where the organs were going because it was a whole bunch of white people coming in.
Hmm.
So it's clear what they're doing, right?
It's so clear to us, but so many people don't get it. So,
That's why I'm putting it out there.
yeah.
Um, so let's kind of go into some of the leaders. Um, the name I can't remember the name of the one who, America was calling him a dictator and saying that he was.
Oh, Jean-Claude Duvalier,
Yeah, let's speak a little bit on him.
the daddy or the son?
The
Because
the the dad.
the dad. Um, That was before my time, but that was like my mother and father's time. My mother told me when she was growing up in Haiti, we're from Okai. They call it Lekai, Lekai. And my mother told me that growing up, there were patrols that guard the streets, and if you drop trash on the road, you get beaten with a baton. And Haiti was clean. Like the area where she lived, it was clean. People didn't throw trash on the ground. They had, there was police officers just sitting there guarding and making sure everybody behaved, making sure the place stayed clean. The um, Duvalier, the Papa Duvalier, he what he my elder told me that he was actually against the mulattoes, against the Europeans, the colonizers. He had a whole um, organization that went against these people where there was a time, a year, where he ordered to have them killed because he felt like they were spies. They were going to let foreigners, colonizers back into the country. Like they had bad intentions for Haiti and brown people. And it's just so interesting how they demonize this man like crazy. When you read about him, and especially like US government, they say, "Oh, he's a dictator. He's this and he was that. He killed people." And I'm thinking, "Well, you guys kill people here too."
Right.
Haiti was clean. Haiti was doing fine. Haitian people weren't getting on boats to come to the US at the time. Like people was fine. Like my mom told me how clean it was. Everything was good.
Hmm.
And then when he passed away, his son went into power. And his son was told by numerous priests, priestesses, everybody told his son not to marry the mulatto girl that he married. Like, if
Mm.
he married her, Haiti was gonna go downhill for a
Mm.
long, long time. And guess what he did? He married her.
Mm.
And
Of course.
once, yeah, he's the one back in I think 1985, I think, because I remember things based on where I was. I was already here.
Hmm.
Was it 86? I was already here in the US when that happened. He got overthrown, and France ended up, taking them in. But he was warned not to get with that woman because she was a mulatto. Mulatto as far as, European
Hmm.
mixture. Yeah.
And
So
so
he
she was
passed.
kind of like, she kind of operated as like a spy used to kind of
Yeah,
take him down.
everybody told him that. I was told he had people from all over the world coming to do readings, because they're big on spiritual system, and everybody told him not to deal with her, but he didn't listen. So everything his dad worked for, everything that was there, everything is downhill. Now, Haitian people are saying they wish the dad was there. They wish that was back. They had their governments back because Haiti hasn't been the same since.
Mm.
It's been downhill. And he was told
He
Haiti
was
was
told.
gonna be bad for a long, long time. And I feel like right now with everything coming to the surface, solution is in place and things are gonna get better.
Right. And this is a point that I do want to stress. Men, this is why y'all have to make sure that y'all are spiritually balanced too, to where y'all don't just let a woman come up because she looks good or whatever thing y'all thinking with
Could
your
be,
penis,
yeah.
and then you allow her to bring you down with sex. Because there's a perfect example right there of a man allowing a woman because he thought she was attractive. What, she probably put it on him real good, and you know, done fucked up the whole country. So I mean, come on, man. Like y'all got to be smart.
And he was told, like
And he
he
was
was
told by multiple people.
And don't forget, his dad had a whole campaign to get rid of these people because his dad knew.
Mm,
Then he turns around and do exactly what he was told not to do.
wow. And so too, another thing, because I was talking to somebody else about this, and they're from Haiti too. Um, they were saying that he basically just ruled with an iron fist, And then that's why, and of course, like you said, his stance where he was against, the colonizers, this and that, XYZ. And so America's saying, oh, well, he's a dictator, but it's because he kept things in order. So what,
Yeah,
yeah, so what you said about, um, let me saw Jennifer said, yes, you have to watch some of these beautiful, sneaky people. Yes, so that's a message for the men. Y'all need to be careful. Y'all need to be careful. Y'all done let more people and more women destroy shit. Just women that are just evil. I mean, let's just be honest. Destroy shit because y'all don't know how to control yourselves sexually. That's a
mm.
problem. Um, but back to what was I saying?
I think you're
Oh,
going to mention about his dad.
yes.
Maybe.
So his dad. So like what you said, for instance, about if people threw trash on the ground and stuff like that, they would get beat. Whatever. I saw a video, probably last year, of just like this river of trash in Haiti. Just like the river was full of trash. This
Yeah,
was
I
obviously recently,
very recently I saw that too, and it was so sad. I'm just like, what the hell's going on?
right?
And mom was like, no, growing up, you throw trash on the ground, that you're gonna get that baton across your ass, across your head.
Maybe some people needed a baton. Maybe I think some
Exactly.
people here need a baton because I can't stand it when people just throw trash on the ground. Like I can't stand that. That just it does something to me,
So
even
you came
here.
from, yeah, my mom came from the era where they had police officers patrolling to make sure
Hmm.
there's no trash. And I saw videos of Haiti, Okai, the same place where my family's from, where I was
Hmm.
born. I saw videos of Haiti in the early 60s, 70s. Okai is clean. It's so clean. It almost looks like what do you call it? Like a stage, like in a movie. Like it's not even real. You come
Mm,
from that to the point where the river's full of trash. You know?
mm. I feel like too. That's what happens when you let these colonizers take over.
Yeah.
When you let them infiltrate, when they begin infiltrating. I mean, hell, I think Brazil has like the biggest amount of uh, area with the biggest like pollution and or just trash. So maybe the biggest wasteland in the Americas. I remember watching a documentary about it. So Um, it's just interesting how once it gets in the hands of these foreigners, it all goes to shit for us in particular, for indigenous people. Well, no matter where you are, whether North
Hmm.
America, Caribbean, South America, wherever, when our lands get in control of people who are not attached to this land, then
They're going to
we,
destroy it.
yeah, they destroy it. And that's a lot of that is what's happening too. So, um, well, let's, I guess, kind of fast forward to this most recent uh, assassination of the president.
When I heard he was assassinated, I wasn't even shocked. I was like, oh, I thought he was already dead because like they've been after this man for a long time. I remember videos of people driving, gangs driving around his house, around his neighborhood, looking for him. I mean, I don't, is he guilty? I mean, what did he do with all that money? I believe
What?
there's a,
Okay, well, what money? Can you go into detail about that? What
okay,
do you mean?
so again, I think this happened, what, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Again, I don't have the exact information in front of me, but there was some money that was given, a loan. It wasn't money that was given. There was a loan that was given to Haiti one of the Asian countries. I have to look it.
Mm,
I don't want to say which one because I don't remember which one. It was billions of dollars. And then when they asked, and everybody knew the money was given to them, it was some loan for, I don't know, some loan. And when they asked the president where the money was, he said the money was lost. Like
oh
they couldn't,
no.
yeah, they couldn't tell the people where the money was, what they're gonna build, how they're gonna use the money. And Haiti owes this money to one of these Haitian countries now. So you take a loan
Hold on.
from
They owe the money to who now?
I don't know if it's China or Japan.
Okay.
I can look it up right now because I don't want to say which one. I don't know which one.
Yeah. So it's one of the Asian countries that's trying to colonize
Yes,
Haiti. Okay.
there was a loan that was given, and the president signed for it. Yeah, everybody's happy. We got a loan. They're supposed to build something. And weeks go by, everybody wants some type of ledger with them, because Haiti owes this money now. The people owe the money. Okay, where's the money? What are they going to do with it? And they're like, we don't know. We lost it.
Oh wow.
And they were like, people was upset. That's the time. That's around the same time. I don't know if you remember where they were burning. There were a lot of riots. They were burning like the hotels and all the
Yes,
buildings.
I remember you talking
That
about that.
that's when that happened. They were looking for
Okay.
him. So when he died, I wasn't surprised. I mean, like a lot of people are gonna die, and I don't know. I don't really care if that sounds harsh, but my relative told me recently. He was like, "Well, there's a cleansing going on. Nobody's innocent, so a lot of people are gonna die. A lot of things are gonna happen in that island to shake things up a little bit."
Right. Literally, because we had the earthquake there recently, right?
Yeah, to shake things up. Like if they're bringing COVID-19 vaccines to Haiti and then an earthquake takes place, that's perfect because guess what? That's going to postpone that. So
Yes.
a lot of spiritual beings like myself and you, I when I heard about the earthquake, I wasn't it's sad, but at the same time, I feel like we're in the time of spiritual cleansing right now. Not
Absolutely.
everybody in Haiti is good for Haiti. Not everybody in Haiti has Haiti's best interest. Not everybody in Haiti give homage to the foremothers, to the spiritual system.
And would
So
you say that the president who was assassinated recently, what would you say as far as his intentions and what he was trying to do with the country and what direction he was trying to take the country in?
I feel like all those people in the politics realm, I don't feel like they have Haiti's best interest. And yeah, maybe he didn't know what happened to the money, but at the same time, he's the president. I'm sure he got something in his pocket. I don't think
Hmm.
he was innocent. I don't think he
Right.
was innocent. And I don't know. I don't feel bad. I know we're supposed to feel bad when people die, but I don't,
Right.
because we can't ask for cleansing. We can't ask for change and then want people to remain where they
That
are. Some people will be removed.
yeah, some people have to be removed, period, because
That's
I mean, they're just a blockage, you know.
yeah.
So Kev Mechanic Fury Taino says, "What happened to all that money that was donated years ago when the earthquake hit? Did any Haitian people see
No,
that money?"
no. The money never gets to the people. There's always some agent, some type of government official. Like it never, the money never gets to the people. Never. So basically, we don't get any government assistance. We don't get like Haitian people don't get nothing, even when it's donated to them. So that
Mm.
says like the people running the place, they're shit, they're evil. They're really, really evil. So
And so it sounds like too, if people want to give to Haiti, they would need to more so give to someone who's directly,
like an
um,
individual, yeah.
yeah, directly there, or individual who maybe has an organization there or who
Yeah.
actually is genuinely trying to do something for the people there, as
Mhm.
opposed to one of these colonizer controlled
Organization.
organizations.
Mhm.
Um, and what I just also want to say, what would you say about the Christian missionaries who they have been probably up until before all this chaos had broke out? They've been going to Haiti and with these churches and all of this stuff. What would you say about that? Because I've also
It's
heard
another
they've been
trickery.
kidnapping.
Yeah, it's another trickery. What they do, they go to the poor areas that they always show to the people,
Hmm.
and then they bring clothes, they bring food, So the Haitian people, they're just happy. Well, the government is not helping us. Oh, these, Caucasian people, they're coming to help us. They trick the people into trusting them. They're always
Mm.
building a church. There's always a church. These people never go and bring food and clothes. There's always a church. And it's like, why can't you just give people food and clothes without trying to get them into a church? There's always a
Colonizing. They're colonizing.
and then the image of, we all know what the image of God is in that
Right.
church. So, and then they make the people believe it's because of voodoo or their natural spiritual system that's causing them pain and chaos, that if they go to worship in the church, it will turn their lives around.
Mm,
It's like it never ended. We thought, oh, the Haitian Revolution, it never ended. These
right.
people continue coming to the country. It never
They're
ended.
still doing it, still kidnapping. I remember reading an article probably about 2 years ago about some of these Christian missionaries and white people that were adopting kids that were sexually abusing them. So, they're doing the same things they've been doing. People want to talk about, Kamloops, which is the residential school up in, I think, in Canada. And that's terrible. They found some remains of 215 children underneath, I guess, that school or church. It may have been both connected. But the thing is, that's happening not just in Canada, that's happening in North America and it's happening in Central and South America. It's happening everywhere. And people don't pay attention though. One, you're indigenous. Two, especially if you're an indigenous person with darker brown skin, let's just be honest, because they're all like, oh, you're African. They don't care about you anyway. And it's like, no, you're indigenous. It does matter. And even if you do have African ancestry, it doesn't matter. You're still indigenous. So it's just like, people are so silent about them colonizing. Like, let me put this here. They come and colonize and then they kidnap and traffic the children. And that's what people are silent about. It's still happening to this day. They're even doing it up here.
Mm-hmm.
They're just quiet about it. So I think that's another, it's just another huge reason. Like I said to you, Haiti is like this huge like link
Yeah.
to American history, the history of the Americas in general. And when I feel like people really understood, because Haiti doesn't follow a particular narrative, it doesn't follow a patriarchal narrative, it doesn't follow a Pan African narrative, it doesn't follow like this super industrial narrative. You know what I mean? It doesn't follow any one particular narrative, and it shows. It really just shows how the history of the Americas really is. It's more complex than people try to make it out to be.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not just black or white. There was a lot more going on, just
So
as throughout everywhere.
yeah,
So
it's,
I,
it's so deep. It's a lot.
yeah, and so just in regards to the spiritual aspect of it, can we talk a little bit more about? And I'm not saying we have to go too deep, but just in regards to the oh, that was sweet. American Indian 2028. You goddesses are breathtaking. Appreciate your work. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
gotta we gotta do this more often, man, because it's just
I
like
know.
people don't hear this in regards to just like indigenous history, indigenous women, especially those who look like us,
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, let me just briefly say this. The description that I saw in one of these Taino groups of the Aboriginals of Puerto Rico, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it said that they had, darker skin, blah, blah, blah. So it was a lot of these white passing people, people who probably were like 98% European, but they were claiming that little 1% Taino, right? Um, but they were like, well, is this true? Is this verifiable? Is this that? Is this that? And it's just like, because it didn't fit this Euro,
Mm-hmm.
colonial narrative of how an indigenous person looks. It didn't say that the indigenous people of Puerto Rico looked like Iron Eyes Cody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The little Italian white guy who was playing a native. And that
Mm-hmm.
description fit you perfectly. And I
I
was
know.
just like, and that's when I called you and I was like, this description of the Aboriginal people in Puerto Rico fits you perfectly. And,
Mm-hmm.
because I just feel like that information has to be out there. And we're going to be doing a video. Me and Taino Fury are going to be doing a video on the Arawak people and bringing light to the people who do not look European that are actually like full blood Arawak.
Yeah.
But to get back to the spiritual aspect of Haiti and the Haitian Revolution, what would you say, or what do you want to say about that in particular? Because people love, that, but people don't quite understand. Because like you briefly mentioned earlier, there's this kind of narrative that's assigned to even that as well. So what would you say as somebody who's from Haiti and who's heard, your family speak on it, or who just been able to analyze it for yourself as well as a spiritual woman?
So I guess, okay, so back to what they claim the people did to free themselves to win. They said that, ooh, they called on Satan, or, they call on Satan and then this fire and all this stuff. But I don't believe I know for sure they didn't call on Satan. Whoever Satan is, I don't believe in Satan, you know. So
Right.
I believe what they did, they called on the power of the land, the great mother, everything, the water, the earth, the fire. That's how they
Absolutely.
were able to win, because they were able to tap into their own powers
Mm-hmm.
and fight. And then, but from after that happened, then whoever wrote the history, they demonized whatever the people had to do to free themselves. It's like,
Mm.
well, you're killing me, you're abusing me, but you don't want me to do whatever I gotta do by any means
Right.
necessary. I'm gonna save myself. Whatever I gotta do to save myself, that's what I gotta
Exactly.
do. So they demonized voodoo,
Mm.
and then at some point, the people started demonizing their magic or power too, because
Mm.
they've always used. I think something happened to us where before colonialism, they were using their powers against each other.
Mm.
And I feel like that's the it was I'm positive it started with the females. The females, they started using their powers against each other. And I feel like that's how we lost protection, because it's us. It's us. We call the spirits, we carry the
Right.
spirits. So I believe the females started it. But back to the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
After that happened, they demonized it, and the people started using all this negative, energy towards each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
growing up in Haiti, you know me already. I told you how we weren't allowed. I lived in I guess, somewhat poor area, but we had a house. Everybody had a home. I wasn't allowed to go outside and play with other children
Mm.
for the most part, unless my parents were here. Even then, we weren't allowed to play with other children unless they said yes, you can go there, because everybody was a suspected witch or voodoo practitioner. We grew up Christian, and my parents would tell me, "Don't go to that house. They're lugao. Like Haitian people know that word lugao.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to that house. That's a lugao." Everybody was a lugao. Lugao is a derogatory term for like a witch or somebody who practices voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that in that whole, like Haiti's like that. The whole island is like that. Everybody's a suspected practitioner.
Mm.
Something happened to your child, it's got to be, or somebody tried to kill you, somebody hex you. So there's a lot of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
And is
I'm
everybody
sorry, I'm kind of giggling about it, but what you say, I think a lot of indigenous people are like that to a degree, because my great grandmother, she was like that. She would be like, that person looked me dead in my face and did so and so to me, or that person did this to me.
see? It's like, but
Everywhere.
I think maybe in Haiti it's like 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a child gets sick and die, oh my gosh, it can't be, or that child gets sick and die. Nobody just gets sick and die. Or
Right.
won't, somebody's grandma is like 200 years old, she dies. Oh my God, somebody killed my grandma. So they have a lot of that going on, instead of them using whatever power they believe they have towards healing and
Mm-hmm.
forming and different things. It's like
Yeah.
everyone's pointing fingers. I think you hurt me. You hexed me. So now I got no damn proof. But guess
Right.
what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go somewhere and go to a balcony and have somebody hex you because I think you hexed me. So
Right.
there's a lot of that going on.
Taino
So
Fury said, "My boya." So my boya is like a evil spirit that was I guess in Central America. I think maybe even in parts of South America. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, sorry.
okay, so because they demonizing each other, so it made it even easier for other people to demonize us.
Mm.
Okay, so in the early 1900s, um, the missionaries, there was a witch hunt in Haiti
Wow.
by missionaries. They came to Haiti, you know, and had a witch hunt. My
Mm.
question is, who invited them? Who told them? You
When was
know,
this?
in the early 1900s, I'll find it and I'll send you the article.
Okay.
They came to Haiti and did a whole witch hunt. So they killed a lot of the people that were practitioners. A lot of people died. And when that happened, a lot of people went into hiding. A lot of people stopped saying the practice and people went open after that happened because they
Wow.
did a witch hunt and kill a whole bunch of people. So the Bokos, everybody kind of like backed away. Everybody went into hiding because, they went there and they just killed a lot of people. But my thing is, it had to be somebody from the inside. To me,
Hmm.
it had to be somebody from the inside who made that order. There's no way in hell Caucasian people are going to come from France and, the UN or whoever, America, come all the way to the black nation, so-called black nation, indigenous nation, and just know who to kill. So somebody in the government or somebody that works with the government had a list of practitioners and they hunt these people down and kill them.
That's what you're saying is what someone up in the above comment said too. I think their name was like primordial organ energy or something like that. But they said it was, a lot of the stuff happening too is from the inside out,
It
where
is.
it's
It has
people
to
on
be.
the inside.
Because how
Yeah.
would they know where to go and find these people? If somebody's
Hmm.
all the way in Okai, how would missionaries know to where to find these people? So honestly, I believe it's the mulattoes. It's
Hmm.
like the ones that are mixed with
Hmm.
because they're the ones that would have direct connection to them.
Hmm.
Probably kept up with their people because that's my dad's family. I believe it was
Hmm.
one of them from the inside that did that work. So after that happened, a lot of practitioners went into hiding. People got scared. Like to call a Haitian person or a mumbo or bucko without them saying they are, it's almost like an attack.
Mm.
Every little thing, it's like you're a lookout. Every little thing you do, they're like pointing fingers, like people want to attack you because they feel like you're evil. So the people have been taught to demonize their own
Themselves.
spirituality themselves. They
That.
demonize children. They'll be calling
Wow.
2 year old children lugao. I was called when
Wow.
I was 6 years old. You're a lugao.
So, this takes me back to what you said about the deforestation that has been happening on the island. I saw a news special, and I believe it was a Dominican, like DR, Dominican Republic, other side of the island, news special where they were just talking about how, oh, Haiti's so deforested, and kind of like talking down on Haiti for the deforestation without going into details of why it's being deforested. Now, what I saw as well was a video in which they were talking about how it's the voodoo practitioners who are trying to save the trees because they're saying there are spirits in these trees are sacred. But then you have the Christians in Haiti who were like all for cutting the trees down.
Of course, yeah,
So
because
have you heard anything about that or did?
I have. There's a little town. They're not really a town. They're more like a coven, like a village, because it's
Hmm.
just a group of a few families, and their trees. They're fighting with the local government to not cut the trees. It's not like there's a whole bunch of trees. Then they're trying to cut down these people's trees, and they're actually fighting.
Mm.
So again, it goes back to them stealing from the people and disconnecting us from the earth because the trees do have spirits. They do have.
Right.
That's mama. That's nature. That's where we go. That's
Absolutely.
where we're safe. So they're attacking the people in so many levels. Like
Yes,
it's
attacking the planet. Like trees have, they support hundreds of different life forms. There's
yeah,
energy centers in the trees, energy running all throughout the trees that people who have done ayahuasca, I don't know if you've heard of that, or done DMT, which is like a chemical that's in ayahuasca and really in every living being on this planet. But when they take like just the straight up DMT, they've been able to see these energy centers that are running throughout the trees. So trees have their own life forms. These
Exactly.
colonizer scientists have been able to now understand that trees can communicate with each other.
Duh.
So we
And we knew
understand as
all
indigenous
along.
people that they're sacred.
Yeah.
Someone says, Eleanor Brown says, what does the word voodoo mean?
It's supposed, well, the oldest definition, it's supposed to just mean all, one, like God, and that's it. That's It's supposed to just be all, like everything is one.
Hmm.
And everything is one, meaning everything is one. When everything is one, that's God. That's
Okay.
all. But they've made it where it's like people are scared. It just means all. They made it where people are like scared to even say that word. Like I don't even say, "Oh, I practice voodoo," because I know what I'm practicing. It's not what um that's not it's not what people, I don't identify with it because I know there's a lot more, and
Hmm.
then they demonized it, so I don't really want to connect with what their definition is.
Of
I
it
feel
is,
like
yeah.
voodoo is about nature,
Hmm.
because real voodoo practitioners, they don't kill. You can't take life. Like it's against, like, real voodoo, you're not supposed to take life. You're not supposed to kill anything, not even animals to eat, because that's a spirit. So I tell people I practice nature, becoming one with
Hmm.
nature, and I don't want to kill anything.
Hmm.
That's what we do is supposed to be about, like being one with everything, being one with nature.
I've also read somewhere that it means spirit too.
Yeah, like spirit one.
Yeah,
With,
like the
yeah,
great spirit kind of.
yeah.
Um, so she says
It's
some
God,
of the,
so
yeah. Eleanor Brown says some of the trees are a secret. A certain tree you can't cut it if it's on the land you buy. You can't cut that certain tree.
yeah, that's true.
Do you know any more about that, or have you heard
I
about
know,
that?
I know about the trees that are sacred, and like a family will protect that tree. But like I don't have my own land, so I'm not able to do that. But I do understand. I went lately for the past few months. I've been living out in nature preservation park,
Hmm.
and I did walk to the forest. There was a whole bunch of trees, but I saw one, and I was like, that's my tree. I'm gonna give, I love all the trees, but I'm gonna give homage to that tree. And I did give homage to the tree. But as far as what she mentioned, yes, but in like my daily life, I don't have that because I don't have my own land. But yeah, but people who do have their own land and they do practice, yeah, they do have trees. They connect with trees that's there for the family, and they do their own ceremonial stuff with the tree. But
Okay.
I'm living that way right now.
Right. Many of us are not able to, especially if you live in the United States.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess the last thing, can we just kind of bring it all in as far as what's happening now, the spiritual reason? Can you go into a little bit more detail? I know you briefly mentioned it earlier, as far as the spiritual reason why these things are happening in Haiti. Because, like I said, you see a lot of people who are like, oh my God, this is going on. You know, this is happening. It's so bad there. You know, they need to do this. I've heard some people say they need to just let Caucasians take over the island because all
That's
this is
what they want.
happening.
No, 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 that's not gonna happen. Personally, I feel like in a spiritual sense, the earthquake that happened, I think the earthquake happened on the 14th, and then it just so happened that the Wakaima um anniversary, the true date is August 14th.
Wow.
The true
Hmm.
date is August 14th. And then
So,
this
can
earthquake,
you say, like, for people who don't know what Wakaima is, can you please explain that?
Bakaima ceremony is the ceremony that took place. That's the ceremony everybody knows about, where they call the people the slaves, but I don't like to use that. The people that were being oppressed,
Mm-hmm.
they fought back. And that's the celebration or the ceremony where we learn, they tell us that the Haitian people made a pact with the devil, and then they went and fought the colonizers. We were outnumbered. We won. We kicked their ass, sent them home, and then we give homage to that. We give homage to whatever spirit they call that give us the strength. But people say it's voodoo, and then they said it was the devil. So that's what the Bakaima is. It's a the revolution in the fight that took place. The
Okay.
bois is just the bois. I guess they went into the woods. The bois is a tree. Kaima is just like the bois. Kaima is the tree.
Okay.
If that makes, I guess that's the shortest way I can explain it. So the actual date is August 14th. That's the anniversary. And it just so happened like Haiti had this earthquake on the 15th. And
Wow.
yeah, I
Wait,
spoke
was
to
the earthquake, this recent earthquake, on the 14th or the 15th?
the earthquake was on the 15th. The
Okay.
anniversary was on the 14th.
Okay.
And what a lot of spiritual people believe is that the people have turned their backs on the ancestors,
Mm.
whether the people who are there are not indigenous to Haiti, or they are indigenous but they turn their back, because a lot of Haitian people, they will practice voodoo at home, but in public they'll go to church.
Mm.
They take no pride. They're ashamed of voodoo. They don't want to have anything to do with it. If they even think you practice, they won't even talk to you. This is how bad it is.
Wow.
So the same system our ancestors used to free us, they died, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices. The same system, most Haitian people, I would say 99% of Haitian people you meet, they are ashamed of even saying they know about voodoo, or they practice it, or they even seen it.
Hmm.
Everybody, it's like it's a big joke. If I meet somebody and they say, and I say, oh, I go to church, they're like, sure, you go to church, because we know behind closed doors they practice, but in public they switch, and they love Jesus. They claim Jesus as their
Hmm.
savior. So a lot of us believe that there's a cleansing going on. Yeah, a lot of people are gonna die, but nobody's innocent. There's like the country, um, it's almost like the ancestors are alive, and they didn't die just so Caucasian people can come and take over. And that energy that they're called on, I believe a lot of us believe it's still alive. I forgot to mention
Right.
that. So the Boakayama ceremony was said that we opened the portal, and that they never closed that portal, so that energy's still there.
Hmm.
I believe so too. I believe that
Right.
energy is still in Haiti, because when you open a portal, you call energy, you got to close it. And from what I was told, from what I witnessed and see, it was never closed.
Hmm.
So that energy is still in Haiti.
Hmm.
And because of that, everybody, I feel like all Haitian people who are born under that, we all have that energy in us. And that's why it's so hard for them to come in and just do whatever they want to that country. Um, does that make sense?
That definitely makes sense to me. I also feel that if, um, or rather, when Haiti shows, the world shows, especially over here in the Americas, that they're still able to stand after everything that has been going on with that country, then I do think that that's going to be a very powerful sign to all of us, who have been also, experiencing all of this stuff from these colonizers. That's going to be a very powerful sign to us that we can still stand strong. We can still fight back. We don't have to just like kowtow to what is being put out here, and to just the systematic bullshit that we're experiencing right now. And that's why I said earlier, what is happening with this planet, you know it's all like connected to what's happening with indigenous people, as far
Yeah.
as these natural disasters. Like you said, the earthquake is that energy is still there. That portal was never closed when y'all did the ceremony. It's just like,
Thank goodness. That's a good thing. Because
exactly.
the priestess once told me, well, there's going to have to be a lot of us that's going to come together so we can close the portal. I'm like, why would we close it? We're still under um, patriarchy. We're still under colonialization. So why would we want to close it? We need to leave it open. It's going to stay open until things
Absolutely.
what they're supposed to be. There's going to be more earthquakes. A lot of people are going to die. But again, nobody's innocent. Like these people are just, they're not here giving homage to the ancestor. They're not giving homage to the earth. They're not trying to heal. They're not doing anything for the country. So why does Mother Nature got to keep them alive? That's how I feel. Like I know that
Right.
sounds cold, but that's just the fact.
When you look at stuff from a spiritual perspective, harsh, whatever the fuck, like, no, it is
It
what it
is.
is. It is what it is. So that, I mean, that's definitely the truth. Like, what is your purpose here if you're not doing, especially if you're in that country and that has happened, ceremonial things have happened for to get this stuff and get these people out of here, and then you're sitting here trying to perpetuate the same stuff. Then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, hell yeah, absolutely, there's going to be that energy that's going to fight up against that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
they're gonna try to do a lot of stuff to Haiti. It's not gonna work. Like I
it's
already
not working. It hasn't been working. They've been trying. They
yeah,
have developmental plans for the country.
yeah. No, no, they're gonna have more earthquakes. The minute they put in like this high rise building and spend all this money, the earthquake's gonna come, the shit's gonna fall. They're gonna piss off the people. The people are gonna start riots and burn everything down. It's people get upset, people cry, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Haiti!" I'm like, Haiti's good. Like Haiti's good. Like even if the people are not fighting back, but that energy's still there, shit is gonna stay chaotic until people realize, okay, let's leave these people alone.
Absolutely. Well, I think this was a great conversation. I loved having you here. Everybody else loved having you here. It was a very powerful conversation. We're gonna have to come back, like you said, and speak more on what was it you were saying you wanted to speak more on for next
Speak
time?
more on the spiritual trespass that happened to the female because we're the gatekeepers. We bring life here. We bring the spirits here. We're the first protectors, the first providers. When we have our babies, we have food for them.
Hmm.
We're the first. We come first, and I feel like something happened to the women. I'm not gonna be like, oh, the men did it, but I feel like we did something, and
Hmm.
then whatever we did, we became imbalanced, and then we weren't able to teach our sons properly, and then they turned on us
Mm.
physically. And I
Okay.
think we have to get into what happened so that way we can see what we can do, to resolve the issue, so that way we can go back to our throne to who we are.
Absolutely. And I think that was definitely a planetary thing because it's a lot of that, just a lot of destruction happening, to women just all across the planet. So I definitely would love to get into that conversation with you next time. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this video, share, because this information definitely needs to get out here that, you know, Haiti's a perfect example of they can't take us down. They can't take us down. They can't kill us completely. They could try, but they can't really kill us. So, indigenous people are still here on the island. We're still here throughout all of the Americas. We're not dead. We're not extinct, none of that. So, just thank you all for joining us tonight and have a good night. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.